Happy July 5th, guys. So this weekend, I think I kind of alluded to it yesterday, but this weekend I was, kind of in meditation and just getting out in nature. And anytime you get into, especially rivers, main uh, blood banks of the planet, you get into the moving energy of the whole biofield. And I've always been encouraged to look at the bigger picture, right? So I've explained this in other videos before, but I was around some guys that got in an accident in 2015, huge breaker explosion, and I felt there was tension building before that. Whenever tension builds, trust gets violated. People don't trust each other, and so tension builds. It's like two opposing negative polarities, right? So I witnessed that where the tension built to the point where all of a sudden there was a huge explosion and people got physically hurt. But it happens at the energetic level first. Um, so what I'm about to explain to you guys is what I'm feeling in the overall general energy field. So, I involved myself in the business community, and I basically just kind of trying to support it in any way I can. Uh, all of us are trying to support each other, especially just speaking our truth, all of us have something to offer, usually something specific to offer. And, as long as you're in that listening and providing circuit, you're always moving forward and you're always supported. I've made quite a few videos about that. And you align yourself with source, right? Because you're not feeding off your environment, you're supporting it and supplying positive energy for it. But if you guys think about what the whole last 10 or 15 years has been, and it shouldn't be anybody's it should be this what I'm about to tell you, it shouldn't be new to anybody, is that divide and conquer is a strategy is older than time. And the way that you divide people is through fear. That's it. It's really the easiest way. It's the only way, right? Because if people are afraid, then they don't trust one another. And when they don't trust one another, then then they're easily controlled. Because if you're isolating people, all you have to do is give the hand them the mechanism for control and the thing that they need to interact, which at this point is money. And then, but when people are serving money, they're not generally trusting each other, because you're feeding off of somebody for this thing. You're not providing for them altruistically, if that makes sense. So when you provide for somebody altruistically and you say, I'm open to receiving, but I don't necessarily need anything. I don't need anything from you. For one thing, that makes you available for anybody, and you're non-judgment, because some people just might not have that much money, right? So who am I to say that what I have to provide isn't available for anybody, right? Whether you have $0 or $1 billion, it really doesn't matter to me, right? I'm open to receive. So, if you think about that and the way that how our society works, when you have hard money that you're trying to sell a product for to somebody, you're making it available for a certain percentage of people. Now, maybe that product is only for that target audience, that's one thing. But when you're trying to provide for the whole and make everything available for the whole, then you just have to be open to receiving, because it's more of a spiritual thing, right? When you're providing something for the whole. Anyway, to get off that subject, that tension. So when you look at the business community at large and what we're going through, as inflation goes up, and the reason inflation goes up is because so many people are trying to sell stuff to each other, and they're trying to put money in their own pocket, right? And the way we create money in this country is to use credit to just create more money. So as more money goes into circulation, but it's all going into pockets instead of providing for each other, if that makes sense. let's say I've got a business, and this has happened to me in LinkedIn over and over and over and over. And this isn't to point fingers at anybody, but I just want you guys to educate you guys on what you're doing and how you're going to have to shift your mindset if you want to move forward and start overcoming fear, because everything is about overcoming fear. There isn't anything that will keep you from growing. Overcoming fear is everything. If you don't overcome fear of lack, then you will eventually fall to fear as the fear grows, and the fear is growing. If you think about what's happening as inflation goes up, it gets harder for people to obtain things. So now they're if you're in the lower percentage of people making a very little amount of money, the fear is going up because you see the source as money and you don't see yourself as source. You don't see your value as putting the energy that you invest in the other people and people around you will come back to you. But if you see as your source as just money, and the fear level rises and you start to isolate, because our culture right now is so isolated. Everybody's plugged into electronic devices, and so if you're not communicating and participating with each other on a one-to-one basis, then you're not really putting your energy into each other, especially if you're just trying to sell a product and you're isolating yourself, and let's say you live alone and all you do is you're trying to sell products to other people. Now you're not in a positive energetic exchange with anybody. You're not providing for anybody, and you're not getting any return. And so as the system gets bound, and I've seen this, and you can feel it intuitively, is that people are selling less and less and less because the cost of everything's going up. Now, what happened during COVID, right? I mean, the same thing happened during COVID on a smaller scale, because fear is all about fear, mind. If you are afraid to go outside and interact with other people, your mental health is going to go down. There's no question. Fear creates poor mental health. And so in order to really understand that you are source, you really have to be putting positive energy into your environment. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do in this video, right? I'm telling you, don't be afraid. But as fear levels rise, things start to collapse. And what supports you is the energy that you're putting into the people around you, right? Not the amount of money in your pocket, because if and when, and it feels like it's going to be this fall, if you really think about what's going on in Europe right now, the Fed's trying to put another gas tax on this country, which means that, and they're using the excuse that they're helping the environment, right? I'm sure that's probably the excuse. It's still BS. It's all about jacking the fear rate. Everything that a government does, if it's in the business of control, govern means to control, everything they do will be to increase the fear rate, because you can't control somebody who's not afraid of anything. You can't, right? If I'm not afraid of not being loved, then a potential lover can't control me, right? If I'm not afraid of anything in lack, nobody can sell me anything. It's like, oh, I need this, or I'm not going to be okay, right? It's trying to create that perception that if I don't have this, then I'm not okay. The reality is the more positive energy you're providing to the people around you, that's what makes you okay. That's what makes you supported. And then it won't matter anything that happens, right? And that also puts you closer to source, because you become a lot more receptive to energies and sensitive to the people around you, because you're trying to get a positive response to the people around you without creating any kind of monetary transaction. So in order to do that, you have to go through a lot of times of self-reflection and purging negative energies, because the negative energies or toxic energies that you have will bleed onto the people around you if you're not going through this process, right? It's just a process. It humbles you. It makes you realize how hard it is to really conquer your own mind and your own thinking. Not only that, but it makes you appreciate where you're at and how you can be supportive to the people around you. So, what I'm thinking and what it feels like to me is the tension is rising. The tension will continue to rise, especially if gas ends up costing $7 a gallon. Imagine what that's going to mean in the grocery store or any kind of product. Once you get a large enough percentage of people that can't afford to live on a day-to-day basis, then if their only thought process is that I need money to survive, then the fear will skyrocket to the point where the city centers will collapse. There's no doubt about it. There's no way around it. It will just happen. And at that point, people need to understand how to deal with refugees coming out of those areas, right? You can't just turn people away, but you also have to educate people on what you expect of them, how they're expected to provide for that community, not necessarily, get money. At that point, money becomes worthless. I think we're about ready to go relearn what all of our great grandparents learned and grandparents learned during the Great Depression in the 30s, right? When money doesn't mean anything anymore, you have to depend on each other. And so you have to figure out what you can provide to the people around you to make them happy. So I'm not trying to spread fear here. It's just the exact opposite. I'm trying to teach you how to overcome all fear. And it's all on the energetic level and your faith, because the more that you see that your positive energies are going into your environment, your faith will increase, and you'll see it's like building up a charge. And then you create an intent to manifest the things that you need, right? All of us need things, but you'll also need less and less to eat, right? You'll be less hungry because you're aligning yourself with source, right? I am the source of everything around me, not this thing out there. So I really want to get this message out to you guys. I hope it was try to make it as easy and plain as possible, but don't believe me, just sit down and think about what I had to say today, and take some time to reflect, ground yourself in nature, take care of yourself. The better your mental state is, and the more that you can relieve trauma, because traumas will feed off other people, the more you're able to provide positive energy into the people around you. And then you can get, you'll always be supported as long as you're doing that. As long as you're healing and don't feel like, nobody's against you. If it feels like somebody's attacking you, they're literally just attacking themselves, right? Because they have this perception in their mind that you're not good for whatever reason. But, when you really start building the people up around you, it also create a lot of self-worth, and then open you up to receiving just naturally from your environment. So, love you guys, and I'll be on tomorrow. I might start doing readings as far as, where we're at and where we're going, but leave in the comments. Tell me what you think. Where do you think we're going? Where does it feel like to you that is happening? Because when you're trying to feed off of each other energetically by just pulling just material goods from people, there's just a canceling energetic thing there if you do move energy. And on the whole, as the fear rises, people start putting more in their pockets than they do to the world around them, if that makes sense, right? But all of us are just conductors, right? We're not capacitors. When you create a capacitor, then you're creating as resistance to the flow of energy. So if you're trying to become a capacitor, then the inflation rate grows. So hope that makes sense for you guys. Catch you later.